Shalom Aleichem, Mishpachim. All right, I have my Sefer Chayenu in front of me, and I'm going to read with you guys the Haftarah with commentary. The Haftarah for Vayigash. All right, and the Haftarah is out of the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37, verses 15 through 28. This is Haftarah with commentary. The dramatic confrontation between Judah and Joseph that opens Parshat Vayigash presaged the political confrontation between Judah's descendants, the major constituent of the southern kingdom of Judah, and Joseph's descendants, the major constituent of the northern kingdom of Israel. Just as Judah and Joseph are happily reunited in this Parshat Vayigash, God foretells in this Haftarah the happy reunion of the 10 exiled tribes of the northern kingdom with the 2 tribes of the southern kingdom that will take place in the messianic future. But whereas in Parshat Vayigash, the prelude to the Egyptian exile and to all subsequent exiles, Joseph is preeminent in the future. Judah's descendant, the Messiah, will be preeminent. Ezekiel chapter 37. The word of God came to Ezekiel, as follows. You, son of man, take a stick of wood and write on it for Judah, the southern kingdom, and for Benjamin, those Israelites who are his companions. Then take another stick and write on it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, the northern kingdom, and all the other 9 tribes of the house of Israel who are his companions. Commentary. After King Solomon's death in the year 2964, his kingdom split into the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. This split was foretold by the prophet Achiah the Shilonite. But at the end of that very prophecy, it is stated that this division of the kingdom would be only temporary, inasmuch as the 2 kingdoms never united before being destroyed respectively by the Assyrians and the Babylonians. This prophesied reunion is slated to occur in the messianic future. Although the kingdom of Israel comprised all the tribes other than Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, which constituted the kingdom of Judah, the most populous tribes of that kingdom were Ephraim and Manasseh, who descended from Joseph. In fact, the kingdom of Israel is often referred to by the prophets simply as Ephraim. Thus, the conflict between the 2 rival kingdoms became the political expression of the different forms of leadership, personified by Jacob's sons, Joseph and Judah. Jacob himself was aware of the different leadership styles of these 2 sons. Therefore, while he designated Joseph as his successor, he left certain aspects of the leadership of his family to Judah. This Haftarah is taken from the 3rd and final section of the book of Ezekiel, chapters 33 through chapter 48, which comprises prophecies concerning the future restoration of the Jewish people after their exile. Specifically, it concerns the future reunion of the tribes of Ephraim and its associates with the tribe of Judah and its associates. Bring them to you next to each other like one stick, and they will miraculously become one stick in your hand. When any of your people ask you, will you not tell us what these mean to you? You must tell them, this is what God has said. Behold, I am going to take the stick, the kingdom of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and of the tribes of Israel, who are his companions, and I will place them together with the stick, the kingdom of Judah, and I will make them into one stick, so that they become one nation in my hand. God instructs Ezekiel to take 2 sticks, designated one to represent the kingdom of Judah, and the other, the kingdom of Israel, and bring them together, after which they will miraculously transform into one stick. Chapter 37, verse 15 through 17 in the book of Ezekiel. This is explained as presaging the future reunion of the 2 kingdoms. God then foretells the return of all the tribes from exile, ruled by one Davidic king, purged of their urge to sin, planted eternally in their homeland, the land of Israel, in which the temple will be rebuilt. Verse 17, commentary. They will become one stick. Unification of 2 disparate parties can occur when one party subordinates itself to the other, or when either or both parties sacrifice some of their uniqueness in order to fit better with the other. But since such strategies are predicated on the stifling of at least one party's self-expression, they do not lead to true unity. True unity allows the full expression of both parties' uniqueness and is therefore possible only by uncovering the common essence of each party, their source within divinity. Judah and Joseph embody the emphasis on self-abnegation and self-empowerment, respectively. Both are essential components of spiritual life and of our relationship with God. But whereas in the present reality of exile, self-empowerment is paramount, the Messianic future will reveal the preeminence of self-abnegation over self-empowerment. Nonetheless, Judah's future preeminence will not imply any lessening of the qualities personified by Joseph. For Judah's self-abnegation serves to open us up to our divine soul's essential unity with God. When we tap our essential divine consciousness, all the derivative powers of our soul, intellect, emotions, behavior, and expression flow out of it, all of them now informed by our consciousness of our intrinsic divinity. We are simultaneously and paradoxically selfless and self-empowered, and in both cases more so than we were normally before having ascended to this level of consciousness. Thus, in the future, Joseph will be both subordinate to Judah and, at the same time, more self-assertive than he was during the exile. This is why the Messiah, who will both usher in the redemption and oversee its realization, is described in this Haftarah as being a virtual personification of King David. David embodied the trait of selflessness, as he said, "I am but a worm, not even a man, scorned by humility and despised by people. I swear that I stilled and silenced my soul, like a baby upon its mother," and the like. Similarly, Maimonides teaches us that the Messiah will be someone who meditates upon the Torah's teachings and is occupied with performing its commandments, as was his ancestor David. Verse 18. When any of your people ask you, will you not tell us what these mean to you? You must tell them, this is what God has said. Behold, I am going to take the stick, the kingdom of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and of the tribes of Israel, who are his companions, and I will place them together with the stick, the kingdom of Judah, and I will make them into one stick, so that they become one nation in my hand. Verse 19, so that they become one nation. The reconciliation between the tribes of Judah and Ephraim, and between the tribes associated with them, as well as between their differing emphasis in the service of God, is the consummate fulfillment of the commandment to love our fellow Jew as ourselves, which paves the way in turn for the universal unity that will characterize the whole world in the Messianic era. Inasmuch as this commandment is the fundamental principle upon which the entire Torah is based, this reconciliation is also the goal and consummation of our cumulative, collective efforts throughout our history to bring the redemption. Inasmuch as every Jew's soul originates in God, our souls are fundamentally and eternally united, functioning harmoniously. It is only once the soul has entered the physical body that the materialistic orientation it thereby acquires can pit it against other souls. From this perspective, loving another Jew entails transcending the divisive materiality of the body. This is especially true during the exile, for the existential definition of exile is the mutual estrangement of the spiritual and material aspects of reality. It is for this reason that God commanded Ezekiel to perform the physical act of bringing the sticks of Judah and Ephraim together, to indicate that their rapprochement must take place on the physical plane of existence, not just in sentiment or theory. Since Jewish unity, followed by universal unity, counteracts the essence of the exile, it follows that being particularly careful to fulfill this commandment will hasten the final redemption. Verse 20. The sticks on which you will write will be in your hand for them to see. You must further say to them, thus says God, behold, I will take the Israelites from among the nations to whom they have gone. I will gather them from all around and bring them to their land. Verse 22, I will make them into one nation in the land, among the mountains of Israel. One king will be king over them all, and they will no longer be two nations, nor will they ever again be divided into two kingdoms. Verse 22, one king will be king over them all. The future preeminence of Judah, personified by his Davidic descendant, the Messiah, over Joseph's descendants, the primary constituent of the kingdom of Israel, seems at first blush to contrast with the preeminence of Joseph over Judah described in the beginning of Parsha Vayigash. However, although it is true that Judah was at the mercy of Joseph, who was the all-powerful viceroy of Egypt, Judah nonetheless spoke to Joseph with fearless, even heroic force. Thus, although it was Joseph who had the power to free Benjamin, it was Judah's forcefulness that convinced Joseph that it was time to end the charade and to exercise his power for the family's good. Similarly, the conventional wisdom today tells us that we should conform to the materialistic norms of modern civilization. Even when we are granted the freedom to fulfill every detail of Jewish practice, we are pressured to fall in love with both the laws and the rewards of the market. Our challenge is to learn from Judah's approach to Joseph, whom he thought to be the icon of Egypt, to stubbornly defy this pressure, refusing to compromise in our absolute devotion to God and his agenda for the world, even in those seemingly mundane affairs outside the strict parameters of religious observance. By evincing this strength of character, we will merit to see in the Messianic redemption the full expression of God's ability to reveal his divinity within the material world, such that all aspects of creation, including all humanity, will acknowledge God's mastery over all reality, adopting God's vision for the world as their own. Verse 23, nor will they defile themselves any longer with their idols, nor will their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions, but I will save them in all their dwelling places in which they have sinned, and I will purify them. They will be my people, and I will be their God, exclusively. My servant, the Messiah, David's descendant, will be king over them, and they will thus all have one shepherd. They will follow my ordinances, observe my rules, and practice them. Verse 24, commentary. My servant David will be king over them. According to some opinions, this verse, as well as Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 9, implies that King David himself will be the Messiah. But it is difficult to resolve this presumption with the accepted notion that the resurrection, even that of select individuals, which will precede the general resurrection, will occur after the advent of the Messiah. It is therefore more plausible to assume that these verses are just a shorthand of the Davidic ancestry of the Messiah, or on a deeper level, that they imply that the soul of King David will invest itself in the Messiah, as is similarly taught with regard to the soul of Moses. This will occur in two ways, as will be explained presently. My servant David will be king. The first quality that the Messiah will have to manifest his kingship, as Maimonides points out. The purpose of the king is to establish God's rule and establish justice through warfare when necessary, and the maintenance of righteous government. But whereas all historical Jewish kings were only charged with imposing God's rule on the Jewish people, the Messiah will be additionally charged with bringing all humanity to submit to God's rule. Once, however, God's kingdom is firmly established, the Messiah will remain a king, will emphasize his second role, that of the peerless teacher, as is explained in the next verse. Verse 25, they will dwell upon the land that I gave to my servant Jacob, a boundless territory, and in which your fathers dwelt. They, their children, and their grandchildren will dwell upon it forever. Then, inasmuch as the Messiah will be a descendant of David, my servant, he will be not only the Jewish people's king, but also their prince. And in this latter capacity, he will lead them forever. David, my servant, will be their prince. Besides being a great king, the Messiah will also be both a great sage and a great prophet. He will make use of these latter qualities to fulfill his second role, to instruct the people, both Jews and non-Jews, in the ways of God. This role is described here as being the prince rather than the king, much as the head of the Sanhedrin was always referred to as the prince. Thus, in the previous verse, the Messiah is described as being king over them, for the king's primary function is to impose God's rule over his subjects, whereas in this verse, the Messiah is described as being simply their prince, rather than prince over them, for a teacher must relate to his pupils on their level. Since the Messiah's first kingly role will recede into the background once his kingdom is functioning, and he will then chiefly manifest his second pedagogical role, he is only described as being a prince forever, not a king. All right. Verse 26, I will make a covenant of peace with them. I will be an everlasting covenant. It will be an everlasting covenant with them. I will establish them, make them numerous, and place my sanctuary in their midst forever. My abode will be among them. I will be their God, and they will be my people. The nations will then know that I am God, who sanctifies Israel, when my sanctuary will be in their midst forever. All right, and that is the reading of the Haftarah with the commentary from Ezekiel. All right, have a wonderful night. Laila Tov and Shavu Tov.